Good. Okay, ready? At this time, I'd like to call to order the Genoa Township Board of Trustees regular trust meeting. It is March 3rd, 2022, and the time is 6:30 p.m. A full and accurate account of this meeting's audio recording can be found at www.genoatwp.com. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette.
Here.
Ms. Goodman.
Here.
Ms. Vaughn.
Here. Also present, our fiscal officer, Pat Myers, Deputy Chief, Police Chief, Russ Jabali, Police Chief, Steve Gamble, the Deputy Director of Roads and Buildings and Grounds, Corey Flagg, Director of Roads and Buildings and Grounds, Bob Matthews. McMillan here? Is Lieutenant McMillan here? Okay. Fire Chief, Joe Ponzi, Director of Zoning and Development, Joe Schaefer, and Township Administrator Paul Wise. We also have our Director of Human Resources, Linda Greco. Did I miss anybody else? All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Sarah Walsh to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Before we get too far into our meeting, we do have some police business we'd like to address first.
Good evening, trustees. I would request a resolution respectfully to hire Joseph Washington as a full-time police officer effective March 7th, 2022. Mr. Washington comes to us from the Columbus Police Department, where he has been a police officer there since June 2021. He's a graduate of Ohio University. He's currently a first lieutenant in the Ohio National Guard, and I would request to start him at the B-step rate of $32.75 an hour based on Section 14.2 of the collective bargaining agreement that allows the trustees to start him at the rate which we have done for hires with previous law enforcement experience.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll move to hire Joseph Washington as a full-time police officer effective March 7th, 2022 at the B-step rate of $32.75 per hour per the collective bargaining agreement. Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, or any discussion, I guess? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette.
Yes.
Ms. Goodman. Yes. Ms. Vaughn.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Joseph. You want to come up here and take the oath of office, please? Wait just a second.
I state your name.
I, Joseph Washington,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio.
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
in Genoa Township,
in Genoa Township,
Delaware County,
Delaware County,
state of Ohio,
state of Ohio,
during my continuance in office.
during my
Appoint.
continuous employment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Stay right there. Stay right there. Now we'll have a special someone come up and present your badge. You can introduce her to us.
You want me to sign this? You got a blue? Read my mind.
We'll wait. Thank you. Congratulations.
We're going to head back and get some cake at the station.
Yes, very good. Next, we'll turn things over to our fiscal officer for the fiscal officer report.
Thank you. I have about 6 sets of minutes I would ask your approval as presented to you prior. August 23rd, 2022 special zoning trustee meeting. January 24th, 2022 special zoning trustee meeting. February 3rd, 2022 regular trustee meeting. The February 17th, 2022 special trustee meeting. And the February 23rd, 2022 special trustee meeting.
Very good. I'll move to approve the following August 23rd, 2022 special zoning trustee meeting. Do we mean 2021? Yes. Yes, that's, I just was correcting that. 2021. So August 23rd, 2021, to clarify. January 24th, 2022 special zoning trustee meeting. February 3rd, 2022 regular trustee meeting. February 17th, 2022 special trustee meeting. And February 23rd, 2022 special trustee meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I didn't attend a majority of those, so I'm going to abstain.
Very good. Roll call.
Yes.
You said abstain.
Abstain, I'm sorry.
Ms. Goodman,
Yes.
Ms. Mott.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll have those for your signature. Next, I have the financials for month-end January close. I'll have these for your review and signature. Total balance is $23,525,412.09. Our investments, it breaks down to the investments of $21,355,773.95, and our primary account of $2,169,638.14. Everything is reconciled and balanced and audited for your review. And lastly, we have a purchase order for the annual blanket purchase orders for police and fire, and I would ask for your approval of that.
Okay, I'll move to approve the 2022 annual blanket certificates for the police and fire departments in the amounts of $563,594. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Antoness?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have.
Very good. At this time, we'll have trustee comments. Anyone?
I would just like to acknowledge that Doug Sams is here from the Delaware General Health District, and he has given us 2 items. The Ohio WIC is now on Facebook, and the COVID-19 current map of cases, et cetera. And if Doug had anything he wanted to add to that. Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Antonetts, anything?
Nothing new.
I have a couple. First of all, my March residence hour is going to be held at the Township Hall on March 12th from 9 to 10 a.m. Saturday morning seem to be the most attended sessions, so I think I'm going to stick with Saturday morning. Also, I would like to make a motion that there be no time limit on public comment at trustee meetings. As a resident, having had the time limit, I find it intimidating. It makes you nervous. You're worried about running out of time, and you can't think about what you want to say because you're worried somebody's going to cut you off. So I would just like to not have a time limit on public comment. Now, saying that,
You should ask for a second first and then
Okay.
then go into
okay,
or
sorry
to
about that.
discussion.
Thank you. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. So having said that, I don't think that people should ramble and, go on and on. I think people should be respectful of other people's time. Any thoughts from anybody else?
I think that we have experienced cases in the past where it has been difficult to bring folks to closure on what they're presenting. And I agree that public comment is an extremely important part of this meeting. If 3 minutes isn't enough, then maybe we should think about extending it to 5 as opposed, or, you know, some other number as opposed to open-ended.
Okay. Any comments?
Well, I was on the zoning commission with Connie and chaired for 3 years, and I had never used the clock, and I've never had any issues with extending time. So I'm a firm believer in, if we just explain to them to be respectful of everybody's time and stay on subject, I think you'll find out that most people can do that.
I'm willing to try it for a little bit. If we have issues, we can always bring it back.
I'm concerned that in trying to encourage people, and most people don't want to stand up there very long,
Right.
but there are some, and I'm afraid that there could be a perception of us cutting off their right to speak. So that's why a time limit does give them a predetermined amount. It's not us saying enough, but, you know, I would suggest moving to a longer limit, reasonable but longer, if we need to. But I think open-ended, I don't believe is in our best interest. We have a lot of business to cover in these meetings, and if public comment goes on and on and on, our business that must be done at this meeting is delayed. And as a result, we could be here for some of the past meetings where it's been 11, 12, and I recall one at 1 a.m. I don't want to see us go back to that.
Fair point. If it comes to that, we could always go back to 2 meetings a month if we can't get our business done. But I would like to try it for a little while, see how it goes. I'll call for a vote. Roll call.
Mr. Antonez?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Anybody else? Sorry, Paul. Anybody else for trustee comments before we move on? That's all I had. All right. Next, we'll go into public comment. Anyone?
I just want to say hi. Melissa School, trustee Antoinette, I haven't met you yet. I'm your Delaware County prosecutor. Well, it's Mark Fowler and then up to me. So just wanted to introduce myself. Happy 2022. Still, I've been robbed of some sense of time. And just make sure you have a neutral mechanism to end public comment. That's my only advice.
Thank you.
Yep.
Could you elaborate a little bit on?
A neutral, like a neutral way of ending public comment.
Can't ask Melissa to stop in 5.5 minutes and ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Should
And then
be able to
let
stop in
him-
11 minutes.
Yeah, so you have to be able to have and that's why sometimes time limits are beneficial, is to be able to have a neutral way to say, I'm sorry, but your time has come to an end, as opposed to otherwise somebody could say you're violating their First Amendment right to speak in a public forum if you're arbitrarily just deciding when to cut people off. But it doesn't sound like that's a concern right now. And cutting people off, you can address that at a later time. But just keep that in mind, making sure you have that neutral way to end a public comment that doesn't differentiate between person A, person B, person C, person D. And with that, I'll sit down so that I won't extend my public comment.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Dan Edwards. I've been a Genoa Township resident for the past 10 years.
Can you give us your address?
Yes, ma'am. 5948 Old Head Court,
Perfect.
Westerville, Ohio, 43082.
Thank you.
And I'm before you today to make a recommendation that the police department be allowed to purchase the flock camera systems. I believe that's going to be something that we're speaking about tonight, but wanted to present my opinion. Having reviewed or having seen what the flock camera systems are capable of, I believe in very short order that having something like that in place in Genoa Township will prove its worth very quickly. I'd be surprised if it doesn't help either Genoa Township Police or one of the local police departments solve a crime in a very short period of time. So just wanted to voice my support for the system.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm George Schultz, and for the last
Can you give us
17
your
years...
address,
I'm
George?
sorry?
Can you state your address for the record?
Yeah, I'm getting it. I lived at the Village at Harvest Winds, 6361 Grassmere Drive for the last 17 years. I'm a member of the Genoa Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association and current member of the Genoa Fire EMS Citizen Advisory Committee. I'm here tonight to support the concept of the flock camera system and the testing and demonstration of 3 cameras so that the police department can get a thorough hand on how to effectively, that system can be to the police department in the Genoa Township. While I'm not an expert on all facets of the flock camera system, I believe that I do understand the principles of the system as an effective way to have a watchful eye 24/7 from 3 locations in Genoa in a system that can be united with neighboring departments, local neighborhood cameras, and the FBI. The world today is much more unstable than it was even 4 years ago. And the projections for the near future do not look anything improving. As an example, I attended Genoa Citizens Police Academy in 2008 under Chief Taylor, and again in 2014 under Chief Gammo, and was amazed at how policing changed in those 4 years, 6 years. In all the better, because the world had changed, and so did the Genoa Police Department. Today, use Ukraine as an example of the ability of us to watch the activity in real-time basis. A picture is worth 1,000 words. The video speaks volumes. The GPD is a CALIA certified top drawer department that needs to keep up with the new tools that are available today. Please support their request to test this latest individual.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name is Frank Michelle, 5785 Medallion Drive East, not too far from here. I echo everything I've heard here about the camera system. I'm not going to spend time repeating everything. I don't have prepared remarks, which is probably good because that would exceed the time limit. And I'd be one of those people that would take the cane and pull me away. But to me, it's a necessary tool for policing. I have been through the Citizens Police Academy in Genoa Township as well as Westerville, and I volunteer in the Alumni Association in both locations. And to me, it's a no-brainer. In fact, I was fascinated with what I've learned about the system, and I've done a little research on the internet, the company that is selling it, and quite frankly, I wish I had it in my neighborhood. So the only people that should feel uncomfortable with that system are the bad guys. And I'm using guys generically, bad guys. It could be ladies too, so I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Sarah Welsh, 5618 Austin Grove Drive. I want to speak in favor of the police department purchasing or leasing the flock system. I understand there is a concern with every community in the United States of America, balancing between policing and community policing, as well as Big Brother feeling invasive. But we don't live off the grid. We live in a community. And right now, if you have internet, you have an IP address. If you have a cell phone, you have a tracker. If you have a car that has been made in the last 2 generations or 2 decades, you have GPS finding you wherever you go. If you're in an accident, you can employ it right then, and if you don't answer, they will deploy the EMS for you. With that in mind, and not living off the grid, if you walk into a Meijer, a Kroger, a Giant Eagle, you're on camera. If you go to dinner in most of the restaurants in our community, you're on camera. The only people that should be very concerned about getting the flock system are are the people that should not be in our community, who are doing harm to our citizens, your constituency. And with that in mind, I want to speak in favor of them leasing it. I'd also like to speak in favor of our police department encouraging all the HOAs, like one has already done, in purchasing their own flock and allowing our police department to help grow it without burdening the trustees to have to keep making decisions on behalf of everyone. We already know that one HOA has purchased one. We know that some others are in the talks to get them. So I think it would be wonderful if our police department had them at major intersections so that we could monitor the traffic. We know that OSU has 30 and they are going to 60. We know that UA has it. We know that FBI is now embarking on utilizing it. This is a combined activity to snuff out bad people doing bad things in good communities. I speak in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
Good evening. Carl Gebhardt, 6796 Regency Drive. And I will not be the first one to test the new policy since my voice probably won't last 3 minutes. But we're going to give it a try. You know, I really wish I didn't have to be here tonight, probably as much as you wish I wasn't here tonight. I don't want to become one of those guys that continues to show up and just hang around. But I do think I wish I had more confidence in that a right decision was going to be made tonight regarding zoning commission appointments. I'm not an attorney. We have our great county attorney here, our county prosecutor, but I think it's prudent that elected officials are required to go through a public records and an ethics program, an ethics class. You get certified in that, and that has to be renewed periodically. So I'm going to assume that, Mark, you may not have had the opportunity to go through that yet, but I'm sure you will. So I'm not going to go through the Ohio Revised Code 102.03, which talks about ethics and the influence of on public employees and what can and can't be done as a public employee, the use of influence in decision-making by a public employee, or by individuals who want to influence public employees. I'm not going to go through that, but what I would like to do tonight is, again, reiterate a little bit about what I talked about last month, and that's connecting dots. Right? This is what this is about, connecting dots. And again, Mark, I hate picking on you, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just stating facts as you verified. All this information is factual. It's public record. And my concern, as I expressed the other month, was in the appointment of Jim Carter to the Zoning Commission. Jim Carter, address 4493 South Old 3C Highway, made a contribution to Mr. Antonette's campaign on September 1 of 21 in the amount of $1,200. The only other individual financial contribution to Mr. Antonette's was from Larry King. Larry King's a great guy. He's done a lot for this township. It was $100. Mr. Antonette's did do a personal loan to his campaign. A $1,200 contribution to a trustee by Mr. Jim Carter. In kind. This wasn't cash, this was in kind. Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development. 4493 South 03C Highway. Same address as Mr. Jim Carter, since he serves as treasurer of that organization. An $800 in-kind sign topper contribution. Now, we all know what those sign toppers said. Stop high-density development. Didn't say what high-density development was. No one's ever defined that. But that's what it said. And they were placed on Mr. Antonette's campaign yard signs. The same yard signs used by Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development during the referendum campaign led by Jim Carter and Trustee Vaughn, not trustee at the time, among others on the Benel-Kauser development. So let's now look at connecting another dot. Let's look at the Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development campaign finance reports. Contributions were received from the following, all on the same day, October 15th, 2021, about 3 weeks before the election. Kathy Nelson, $200. Kathy Nelson, $500. Annette McMurray, $200. Ken Davis, $250. Jim Carter, $500. Then on 10/18/21, check number 1098, in the amount of $2,833.23 was paid to Minuteman Press for campaign flyers in support of Mr. Antonette's campaign. So we have either through directly personal financial contribution and/or through Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development, of which Mr. Carter is the treasurer, a total contribution to Mr. Antonette's campaign of $4,833.32. Other than your personal loan, the largest campaign contribution to the campaign. And probably, I would bet, the largest ever made to a trustee campaign in Genoa Township. If Mr. Antonette's won, he would need to resign, which he has done, from the zoning commission, leaving a vacancy which Mr. Carter has applied for in the past but has not been selected. And he hasn't reapplied until now, when trustees Vaughn and Antonette's are on the board. Trustee Vaughn, you're not totally out of this scenario. You also received from Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development the Stop High Density Development sign toppers, $800 in-kind contribution. You then proceeded to contribute that back to that same PAC. You also made a personal $250 contribution to the Genoa Township Residents Responsible Development PAC, of which Mr. Carter was treasurer, on July 8th of 2019. You received contributions from Jim Carter of $1,000, August 11th of 19, and Ann Carter, his wife, of $80 on the 26th of September. Now, this doesn't include the endorsements, campaign workers, and social media support both of you received from Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development. Have you started to connect the dots yet? Well, others have. My guess is one or both of you have reached out to the county prosecutor's office on this issue. That's fine, and it's prudent. But is the appointment of Jim Carter really worth it to your political or professional life? A person that in no way offers an unbiased view on proposed development in Genoa Township, a person that has misrepresented and flat out lied to residents about what Ohio Revised Code, the zoning resolution, and the comp plan can and can't do. A person that wanted the trustees and zoning commission to ignore legal advice from the county prosecutor's office and private counsel on individual development issues and the law, and was beaten in federal court attempting to stop a development and deny a resident's equal protection under the U.S. Constitution. I urge you to think hard about the Ohio Ethics Commission law and what it suggests, and I quote, "The Ethics Commission recommends that public servants avoid all conduct that creates the appearance of impropriety," unquote. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Public comment?
James Campbell, owner of LA Cleaners down on Maxtown Road, business owner. And just want to say one of the experiences I had was all my catalytic converters were stolen out of my, off of all my vans that I use, that they were reported to the police. We tried to find things on our cameras. With a combination of everybody's cameras around the area, it did come that we were able to find the perpetrator at that time. It was a lot of work. And I see that helped. Better camera system probably would have helped more, faster, and might have saved some other people some headaches. And I think in general, thieves and crooks teach each other how to be thieves and crooks. Whether it's out in the open or in jail, they kind of talk to each other and it's like, what do you do? Well, what are you in here for? Oh, I steal stuff. Oh yeah, where? Well, not Genoa Township anymore. They got flock. They got camera system over there. I go to Orange Township. I go to Harlem Township. I don't go to Genoa no more. You shouldn't either. And that's the kind of reputation we want to have. It's not about us. It's about them and what we don't want other people to do to our community. I think as business owners, I feel more safe with more protection than less protection. I don't care if people are really watching. I'm not doing anything wrong. If I am doing something wrong, I want it recorded. I want to be able to prove that maybe I wasn't wrong. I've got 3 daughters. I'd like to know that they can come to Genoa and feel safe. I think that system, from what I've looked into, it's very effective, and it's very accurate, and it can be enhanced. And as a business owner and as a family father, I would suggest that they move forward with this kind of a system. It looks, I think they're going to want more down the road, and I think it keeps out people that we don't want here anyways. We already have a good reputation of a very strong police force. People are already avoiding this area. More avoidance of our area from crooks and bad people. We want that word to get around. I'm in favor of that.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, see, no one else. I know Carl Gebhardt left. I do have a comment based on his, what he shared. I did do some investigating after the last time he spoke. He submitted a public records request on February 9th to Genoa Township. He spoke at the trustee meeting on February 9th. Genoa Township did not fulfill his public records request until February 10th. So I'm not sure how he knew who had applied for the zoning commission or committee appointments, but I'll let everybody else connect the dots as he's talking about connecting the dots. Next, we have Administrator Paul Wise.
Good evening, Board. We have with us tonight 2 gentlemen discussing utilities with the township. First up is Mr. Scott Belcastro, going to bring in and discuss the bids on the latest gas aggregation. That's the bids coming due next month. And Mr. Belcastro, please come up and address the board.
I'm not sure the quality of this, how this is gonna turn out up there, so I wanted to, you guys to have at least something in paper to work from.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
We only allow 6 slides or less. How many does this have? We have a 6-slide limit since we got rid of the timer. If you guys don't mind, can you go through, hit the next slide? I'm gonna. Yeah. This was a presentation we put together in a new commercial. I guess they had to have somebody. I didn't break the camera, but we did get through it. Not everyone here knows me yet, so I just wanted to kind of give you a brief introduction. Could we go back one? Scott Belcastro of Trey Bell. Our office is out of Mansfield. Been working with this township for quite some time. Founded my company in 2010 with the primary mission to help clients manage their energy programs in a very complex energy markets. And what sets us apart, we're community-oriented, we're consultative, we're not here just pushing sales stuff on people. In fact, that's not what I did in my previous life. I don't just sell, if you don't mind slowing that down just a hair. In a corporate banking world, we didn't just sell stuff and
it's more of a consultative approach to doing things, and working with clients to make sure they get where they need to go. Traybell has spent a great deal of time and money in proprietary software and a new portal that we've been working on for quite some time. It'll be available. We do have quick and easy access to information. No longer are the days where you have to wait 2 weeks to get something, to go to a supplier to produce it, et cetera. If you don't mind, next slide, please. We are in the renewable energy. We are an advisor or consultant to the city of Columbus, which is now currently running a 100% clean energy program. All the energy by, I think it's 2024, have been made through Ohio assets, meaning installations. Columbus is the third largest city in the United States that can have aggregation, and it is, I believe, the first largest 100% renewable in-state program in the United States. Next slide, please. Point of some more of this clean energy renewable. It is the trend currently. It is where things are headed all over. If you guys look at, there's mandates that we're 100% carbon neutral by 2050. Traybell has done facilities, homes, and we do work through a lot of complex agreements. Some of you have been around here long enough to have met my fiery legal counsel, and between her and myself, we've done quite a few, looking at a lot of different complex documents to help people through those. I will just tell you that a lot of folks talk about renewable energy. I live it. I have 48 panels on my personal home. Last 2 weeks ago, I got 2 Tesla batteries installed in my home. And, for the purposes of, giving people real world feedback. We're a family of 1, 2 to 3 people. So not quite, I guess, your typical home who might have 2 children, but, I think our home is representative of a lot of folks. And so we'll be blogging about that here soon, and how the system is performing, working in the real world. And so if anybody ever is interested in that, we can help, and we feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. Our process at Traybell, which is very different than a lot of folks, we do go out to RFP. We do talk to all the suppliers. We know many of our competitors say that they do, but we know they don't. We've even caught them lying numerous times. The reason it's important for us to do it is because we've been doing, Traybell has set the lowest rate in the energy market and the aggregation market repeatedly in Ohio. So our process works. And in fact, I think in the AEP market, 4.39, and we had taken, I think, 8 different communities at once out to bid and set the lowest rate. And I think in the Ohio Edison market, we set the second lowest rate that at the time, a 4.119, something like to that effect. The point is, our process and working through our process and our relationships with our vendors has been really key. And you'll see tonight why another vendor that's a long-term relationship is going to benefit the community here today. So next slide, please. We're going to skip that. Next slide, please. We talked a little bit about our portal. Really what this portal is allowing us to do, for example, Paul Wise can log in. He can get information on how many customers, how many meters are up and running, how much KWH is out there. If any of the trustees need to know, hey, how much or what is our program at all? I don't even know what the program is. I need to look it up real quick. You can look it up. You'll have all your documents at your fingertips, and there'll be additional features for the township facilities, so we can kind of track those numbers for you. Go ahead, next slide. Being obviously transparent is important to us. We continue to want to try to build and solidify that information and get it out to people. We have been transforming our industry. Tonight, I've got a proposal for an amendment to our agreement, but the important part is we now have a permanent opt-out program, not just opting out, but I call it perma-out. So you will, in every township, it is inevitable to have 5, 10 people who absolutely hate either the government or the program. I mean, they're the same people, they go bonkers. We can now put them into our system. Not only does the PUC, there is a permanent opt-out that's available through, I believe it's the PUCO, but also we are now creating a tracking system for doing that. This isn't just simply people who want to opt out. These are the people who just never want to see another opt-out letter again. So we've developed a process for that. We've developed processes for getting information. For example, Myra Hernandez at our office, she's Hispanic, she speaks Spanish, and she's there all day, every day, answering phones, as is I. And we did have a second individual up until last week. We went back to school, but nonetheless, we will eventually replace that person. But they're there to help and support your community. And that's something that a lot of brokers do. In fact, I can't think of any other broker that does that. It's important for us to spend time with your, getting your residents where they want to go quickly. Next slide, please. Go ahead, next slide. And I think that in the last slide, I did say that we have limited access. You can call me pretty much any time at night if you need to get a hold of me, questions. Customers call me on the weekends, not a lot, but sometimes they do. We answer the phone. I mean, it's no big deal. Community involvement, we've been a part of a lot of different communities, festivals, fairs, Christmas parades and more, and sponsors of the OTA and regional OTA. We're not here to be here and gone, see you in a while. We do truly believe in giving back to the communities, and as you can see down there in those two bottoms, it's Madison Township, Franklin County. We go down there every year, partake in their Christmas parade, give away school supplies, small toys, small hats and gloves. We just want to be a part of giving back. The next slide, please. And there was these are just some other notable things. Coats for kids, defibrillators. That's the one down there for the Sugar Creek Fire and Rescue. They had a need for a defibrillator. We didn't buy the whole thing, but we did. We were a contributor towards that defibrillator, which, by the way, saved 2 lives the very next day. I was super excited and stoked to be a part of that. Next slide, sorry. We have 160 plus combined electric and natural gas programs running in Ohio. Continue to grow our portfolio. We've heard it from a number of our competitors who will go out and say, well, I was the first to the market 20 years ago. I'm like, okay, but we're 3 times your size already. The PUCO, we gave the Ohio Township Association community aggregation workshop this last February or January. And the PUCO said that Traybell, I believe now is one of the largest. He said it was the largest aggregator in Ohio. I don't believe him. I think we're still second, but nonetheless, we've grown exponentially, and I think it's because of our processes and care for our communities and how we operate. Next slide, please. Go ahead, next slide, please. There's a picture of Myra right there. So it's a little difficult, which if everybody could pull up this right here, this is the natural gas market. And I wanted to, and it is kind of important, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you guys, please do look at that. 2020 was sort of a low. I think it was a 17-year low in, it was a 17 or 20-some year low in the natural gas markets of $1.49 per MCF. If you go to look at the beginning of 2021, January, $2.46, okay? That was what the natural price of natural gas by itself settled at. The importance of that is now let's fast forward to November of '21 or even February of 2022. It's at 62 cents. It's a 150% increase in the price of gas. I will save you, for those of you who can't see this, but at least can hear this, the volatility in the market has been outrageous. Since May of last year, and you can kind of see that in your, well, yeah, you can see it in the graph here, up on the actual graph itself, how it starts to just trend upwards, and then it gets steeper and steeper. February of '22, as I already said, it has increased since January 154%. The Federal Energy Commission has been approved some additional transmission costs on top of the already cost. It was, I believe, 1.07, correct, at the beginning of last year until they threw through these increases and went to $1.70 for the adder that the Columbia Gas has. For those of you listening, it's the price of NYMEX, New York Mercantile Exchange, plus the adder is how Columbia establishes their rate. And that rate went up on top of already the actual gas costs. So people are feeling the pain. I mean, it is brutal. Volatility all over the place, and it is causing the way we do and manage our clients going forward. And really, we're managing risk, and that's what we're talking about here. Next slide, please. The electric market, again, this is a slide of the electric markets, wholesale pricing. And I just want to highlight here, natural gas is a cost driver of electric service because they're using it to create electricity. Weather has become increasingly volatile. Please go back to some of your old, if you really want to bore yourself, go back to your old recordings. You'll hear me say two things have always affected these energy markets. The two W's, war and weather. And we're experiencing in exactly as I told you, we now have weather that's been all over the place the last few years. And more recently, we're all very aware of the Ukraine crisis that we're dealing with in war. So maybe prices aren't moving up exponentially as a result of the war, but they have been insanely volatile. Just look no further than the stock market, which goes way up every day, 500 points, down 500 points, depending on which indice you're looking at. The S&P, it's traveling up and down constantly. It's kind of been very similar to what's happening in our energy markets. Please, next slide. Thank you. Next steps. So we do have the natural gas agreement program ends in April of this year. And if you guys going back to your natural gas pricing chart, and actually since May of last year, we really haven't had a lot of great opportunities to buy natural gas. And in fact, we thought, back when it was under $3 an MCF, we thought we would be okay. We might be able to get back to that at some point. Starting in August, it's over $4. October, it's over $5. We've had very little opportunity to buy in the market. And as a result of that, we haven't been here earlier to renew the contract because we just didn't know where to place this thing. And the volatility was really making it difficult. However, we've seen some of our suppliers pass through some costs recently that, and I've had a few customer service issues which have been kind of nagging at me. Another supplier just this week has decided to use the force majeure clause, which we disagree with. So did the other previous supplier, to claim that their losses, they need to get out of a contract with a community when their rates are excellent. Just, and you're doing the folks right. And, the force majeure clause was I think, incorrectly applied. And as a result, Traybell and myself and my counsel get involved to go back and, negotiate that the other direction. Money that was charged to residents last February was returned this past July in one of the instances. And yesterday, as I mentioned this week, I've got to now fight with another supplier to get them straightened out with their new notifications. So what I've proposed is just, look, we have volatility, lots of it. We've had some supplier issues. We've had problems just nailing down a new program. So I thought to myself, there's this company called Border Energy. They sold a few years back to IGS Energy. The one gentleman that was part owner of the company, he's started a new company called Archer Energy. Always been a very stand-up company. They do, they just kind of do in line with how we operate. They deliver on what they say they're going to do, and for me, that's what I needed to know. That's a good thing. That reliability, stability in our program is what I would like to have. Trustees, I would propose with Archer, who is here this evening, Andy Mitri. Andy, if you don't mind, please stand up. There you go. That's Andy. Andy's company is located in Powell, not that far from here. And so he is very much local if you want to knock down his door if you're unhappy with him. And we've come up with I said, Andy, do you think that you'd be interested in getting back into the aggregation side of it? He says, yes. Our company has grown so much that this is probably not a big deal anymore. I would like to try it again. So Border has served this community when it used to be Border Energy, so he's not new to this group. And so we're recommending, he and I sat down, created what we think is a good strategy to tackle this volatility and risk. What I'm proposing tonight is a 2-year program. So it's a 2-year contract with Archer Energy. That way we're in a good spot. The adder, it would be another variable rate, just like we have today. The adder would be for the first year, so it's cut up into 12-month increments. The first 12 months is 2% off Columbia's adder, currently at $1.65, so it's going to be a few cents off of that. We didn't just come here without looking at some other options. There were maybe 2-3 cents off additional that we could obtain, but given all the other issues that we're having right now, I just feel like this is probably a better way to go because I can rely on his word that he's going to do what he says, and I think that's important. The good thing about what we're going to do is have the ability to convert to a fixed rate for the duration of the program once the price of natural gas goes back down. It's a trigger. So Andy's monitoring this all the time. I'm monitoring it all the time. I call up, say, Andy, I'd like to have a 2-year program. The first year is 2% off Columbia's adder. I mean, it's not a ton of money, but it's less than the utilities rate. But it gives us the opportunity, if the price of natural gas drops back down to under 4, like around 3.8, 3.7, 3.5, we can trigger this thing to get it into a fixed rate. And then we don't have to worry about anymore when it goes to $4, $5, and $6 per MCF. Andy, I wanted to give him, if you guys don't mind, just a half a second, because I blew through the 3 minutes and now I'm blowing through the 5 minutes. If you want to just talk about the energy markets in general.
Sure. I mean, you kind of summed it up. I guess one thing I'll say is.
If you could wait till you get to the microphone.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Andy Mitri with Archer Energy. The volatility we've been seeing is unprecedented. We have not seen these types of moves ever. So you look at what happened in February of this year. We had the largest one-day increase ever into settlement. We saw natural gas go to over $6 for February. We had the same thing happen in November. The simple fact is, we at Archer, we have, I guess, 22,000 residential customers across Ohio, Indiana, Rhode Island, Wyoming at this point in time. We're very big on commercial, so we've been actively managing this risk away. So I'd say the bulk of our customers are less than $3 because when the pandemic hit, we knew unfortunately, hopefully for all of us, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Commodities cratered. We took advantage of that. We're in a situation where the market's just been a runaway train. So we have to look for these opportunities. Because if you look at what Columbia was charging last year, for last winter, not this winter, prior winter, on average was $3.86. This winter, $7. I mean, we got to get away from it. So we got to figure out a way, when we see these opportunities, when the market breaks down, to go ahead and pull that trigger, like Scott was saying, and to help the residents out. And that's the whole thing about this. It is risk management. So, there's going to always be people that say, well, you could have done this, or you could have done that. But this market has just been incredibly volatile, and I just don't think it's in anyone's best interest to continue to ride it variable, long-term. That's it. Obviously, like Scott said, with the Ukraine markets, that's caused it. The United States is a large LNG exporter. We're becoming the largest in the world in LNG. There's a lot of psychological pressure on the markets right now because of that fear of what's going on across the world. That's it. If any other comments on the energy market, I can sit here and talk all day about it.
All right, thank you.
Sit tight here for just a moment. I want to just back up to a quick slide. When we, as a board, talked last year, we made a move, and I forgot to highlight this at the top of this slide. Genoa, we entered into on the electric side of it, folks, at a 4.74 cents per kilowatt hour rate. The rate with AEP's default today is at 5.3, and it's been above 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour for some time now. The money just from basically June to now, the savings to date for the Genoa Townships program has put $215,800 back into this community. So back when I talked to you then, I probably talked about volatility, war and weather again, and we made a decision to enter into that agreement for 2 years. We could have gone shorter, probably could have even gone longer. With the way things went, maybe the 3-year could have been more advantageous, but hindsight's 2020. But we did a good job. We got a 4.74 rate. Please take advantage of it if you get the opportunity, because I believe that come June, rates for AEP's default rate will continue to go upwards based on the auctions. One of which auction took place in November of last year, and the next one takes place next week. So we anticipate it to be high. So this is going to be a fantastic rate for everybody. All right, next slide, if I could have it back to where we were again. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. The only other thing I wanted to cover tonight was an addendum. We don't need to make a decision on this tonight. I sent it to Paul. Basically, this new addendum just allows Traybell to take some of the administrative burdens off, like the eligible customer list, every 2-year certifications to become a governmental aggregator. These are ridiculous, administrative, busy work. There's no need to be chasing Paul down or any of you trustees for that. This new addendum allows us to take care of that. The second thing it does is it allows us to help sign documents, within guardrails. It is, that if rates drop to X, we can help purchase electric or gas on your behalf quickly. But it does, again, have guardrails. This isn't an open-ended contract to change everything, but it does keep it with the same group, and we can move more quickly to protect residents, and that to me is what it's about. All right, I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Scott, so the natural gas is running out.
Yes.
And there needs to be an action made. When does that action by the board need to be made?
Okay, so it runs out in April. If we get a motion to approve Archer Energy this evening based on that program structure, I would ask that this board approve, subject to council review, the contract. Andy and I have been working on it diligently all day, yesterday, today, trying to get this thing ahead, actually since the beginning of the week, to get this thing prepared for you and for your council.
But I think as long as we get it out tomorrow, tomorrow, for your council to look at it, if we can get it signed by next week, that's fine, as long as they're happy with what they sign off on. But I would like to have, I am seeking a motion this evening for Archer Energy. If we don't, we will miss the ability to renew the program in a timely fashion. It becomes disruptive. Everyone goes back to the utility, and it's, again, disruptive. This is going to be seamless to get them from one program to the next.
The agreement with Archer Energy isn't in any way tied to this limited agency authority agreement, is it?
The quick answer is no, but it will allow me to, if we find rates, like later on, after that 2-year agreement, it would allow me to go out and say, listen, if we see rates that dip considerably down, not just little changes, considerably down, I will be able to make quick moves to go purchase. I set the numbers there pretty deliberately. This isn't just like, oh, it went down a little bit, you can go buy more electric. No, it has to go down significantly for me to be able to make that kind of purchase. Otherwise, the right thing to do, in my opinion, is come back to you and say, here's what we're doing, here's what the rates are doing, this is why we're doing it, and then you make the ultimate decision. But expediency here is what we're getting after.
And just, we really haven't had a problem tracking me down for signatures in the past. I just want to let the board know that after a board resolution, it's usually the next morning that the forms and the contracts that the board has approved by resolution are sent off to Scott. So
yeah,
that really isn't an issue in this.
I want to echo Paul Wise's comment. Maybe I should have said that differently. It really is just trying to be a better service company to the communities. And if, something like an eligible customer list doesn't obligate anybody to anything. It doesn't do anything. It's just stuff that we have to get done to be compliant with either AEP Ohio or the PUCO. That's all it is. Sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
Imply anything other than that.
So this really, it doesn't have any effect on this agreement. It's just some nicety that you would like. The agreement.
It will have an
the
effect
authority.
on future potential agreements.
Yes.
And that we'll be able to act more quickly on your behalf to secure power. It's been we thought this through. We started talking about it December, and it's been unbelievably well received by a lot of communities because they feel that it's the right thing to do in a markets that are like these. It's crazy.
We need a motion.
The
Correct.
motion would be on the contract for Archer, not necessarily our agreement to the addendum tonight. We can have that reviewed by council and then cover that at the next one.
So the motion would say something about motion to approve the contract with Archer. What's the name of their firm?
Archer Energy
Archer Energy for a first year.
for 2 years.
For
Yeah, 2 years.
2-year program where the adder changes annually, and the first year is 2% off of Columbia's adder. Is that correct?
Well done.
Okay, well, I'll do my best.
I'm just reading the slide right
Yeah, I know. I have notes, so I just wanted to know which ones I need to read. Okay.
What's an adder?
So you have the price of natural gas, that's just the raw price of gas. The adder is kind of like ancillaries, transmission, line losses, all this profit, all those little pieces together that gets then added on to the price of gas. There are costs obviously associated with getting gas from, out of state to here or whatever. But any other pieces, parts that you can think that I may have missed? Yep.
So that adder is set every year by an auction process across all the suppliers in this market. Columbia holds the auction, it comes up with that. It includes, like Scott was saying, transmission, distribution, storage, basis, which is moving gas from one area to the other. All the pipeline charges, we're saddled with capacity costs on moving it. That's all factored in, and then what you have some of the largest entities in the country bidding on these to get that price down as low as they can. And that's what we're taking a discount even further off of that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, I'll make a motion to approve subject to our council review, a 2-year contract with Archer Energy that is 2% off Columbia's rate, and the adder changes annually. Does that have everything in it you need?
I'd like it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
I don't think I have anything else. I just want to say thank you for, getting to know all of the new trustees and Paul for helping out. And I think we're on the right track here to continue to save people money and protect them from this crazy world that we have right now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Glenn Marzoff. Glenn is the general manager of Delco Water Company. He's here tonight to discuss new happenings at Delco, and he comes in yearly to update the board on what's new at Delco.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, well, good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to address the trustees here in Genoa. In the past, I've tried to come out about every other year and had intended to come out in 20. We had a couple of big updates that happened in the year 2020, but lo and behold, things didn't work out quite that way. So it's been almost 4 years, I think, since I've been before this set of trustees. And the only real goal tonight is just to kind of bring you up to speed on what's going on with the water utility that's serving your residents. So just in case any of you aren't aware who Delco is, we are a nonprofit cooperative, basically formed the same way a rural electric co-op is done. 9-member elected board. We've grown from a very rural system in our starting in 1974 to one of the largest systems in the state. We have over 51,000 customers now, about service population of about 150,000. And second largest from a service area perspective in the state. And we now serve in 8 counties. We've recently gone into Licking County in addition to the ones that are listed there. We're excited to become a 2021 best workplace. And like every best workplace or other workplace, we currently are hiring. So if anyone's looking for work right now, hiring engineers and operators and distribution as well. But so we did have more turnover than we've seen any year, probably in our history in 21, but it still was only 3 or 4 folks left for other jobs. But we had a lot of retirements that we expected to happen at age 65, and folks were punching the clock at about 62, 63 instead, just leaving a little bit early. One advantage we had with the pandemic is that for the first time ever, we hired a third-party consultant to help us with an employee or with a customer satisfaction survey. We've always perceived that our customers really thought highly of us, but we've never gone to a third party and really checked it before. This launched in March of 20. I sent it out to about 4,000 folks, and we got over 1,200 responses, right? So it's an amazing response rate. About 30% of those who received the survey responded to it. And overall, our customers did tell us that they're very appreciative of the service that we provide. Over half of our customers rated us as a perfect 10 for overall satisfaction. But as you would expect, we did find other ways that we need to continue to try to improve as well. But very, very happy with the overall scoring there. We also were fortunate enough to have just rebuilt our office in Marengo up in Morrow County. We have a pretty significant customer count up there. And we added a drive-through window. It was one of the things that the staff was interested in. And of course, that turned out to be very, very excellent as far as foresight, because it helped us keep our employees and our customers safe by having drive-through access during the pandemic. So this is one of the big things we wanted to tell you about is we completed the expansion of our Olentangy plant. This went from 19 to 29 million gallons per day. And of course, this is for growth in our region, also for significant seasonal demand we have on the Delco system. We have probably, certainly of any large utility, we have the largest seasonal summer demand from outdoor water use of any system in the state of Ohio. Another advantage we had during the pandemic is our chief operating officer was also our chief engineer, took advantage of some additional capacity he had working from home and in the office, and was able to complete an in-house update to our master plan. Typically, we would go to a third-party consultant to do this, an engineering consultant to do this, but nobody knows our system as well as we do, and we were able to work with our mapping, with our GIS experts and Shane, our chief engineer, and look at a parcel-by-parcel basis based on what we thought it would be, the future development state would be, the timing we thought maybe a particular parcel would develop, and we could base the demand model on an existing customer of similar use. So for instance, in Genoa Township, if we had a property they thought maybe might become multifamily, we would look at what is a multifamily in Genoa use today with the similar number of units, and through that we would be able to figure out what the future demand might be for that parcel. So we really think this is going to be very helpful for very granular data. We also were able to update our financial model. We worked with Stantec, a third-party consultant on this, and built a 10-year, very detailed model. We're able to reevaluate our capacity fee, wanted to make sure that that was appropriate based on what our capital planning was, what our growth model was for the future. So we're able to get that done recently as well. So I told you we just finished the expansion of our Olentangy plant from 19 to 29 million gallons per day. But we're not able to rest because now we're starting the cycle for our Ralph Scott plant. This is the one that's located at the base of Allen Creek, and it's the one that serves Genoa Township amongst most of the eastern part of Delaware County in our system here. So we've already approached the Army Corps of Engineers about expanding the leasehold we have there. So it is actually on Army Corps property. So it expires in about the year 2030. So we've asked both for an extension of that and also an expansion of the property there so we can grow that plant, provide additional capacity for the growth in this region as well. Another significant update, and now in hindsight, we know exactly what this was about. When I prepared this slide, when we started doing these presentations, I didn't quite know what the timing, why the timing had accelerated so much for City of Columbus for this fourth water treatment facility. This was about 10 years out, but obviously this is in reaction to the Intel project. So this is on the old girls' prison site at the corner of Home Road and Dublin Road in Concord Township. They purchased this about 4 or 5 years ago and are planning on sitting on it for 10, 15 years. But with the Intel project, what they're doing is they're replacing some of the capacity that they have at the Hapcremene plant, which is the one that's south of Hoover, that currently serves the eastern part of Columbus, and they're able to construct this plant and build the transmission pipeline and replace that capacity here. And we are a partner with Columbus on this. They've asked us to participate, so we intend to do so. A lot of other projects within our distribution system throughout, including 8 additional water towers, one of which is planned for Genoa. We're just waiting on that property transfer, and then we'll start working on that site almost immediately. That's then, I think, a Romanelli and Hughes development that we've got some property identified, just waiting for the actual transfer there. And then several other ones, including one over in Harlem Township and the Berlin Business Park that we're, as soon as we can get property for those, we'll act on those. You see, over the 20-year period here, we have $130 million in capital upgrades, all for growth. All that stuff's for growth. That doesn't include the rehabilitation and renewal of our existing infrastructure. The board approved construction of a new distribution and engineering complex. Those 2 departments are still in one of our original buildings that dates back to the 70s. Right now, particularly in the winter months, we have to uncouple our distribution vehicles and put the trailer in a garage and then back our truck into a separate garage. And this is basically, it's based on some of the fire departments we've seen here in the county. allows us to pull through, keep those vehicles hooked up, significantly more efficient, getting the crews out in the mornings and stuff to go out and get work done. So appreciate that very much. We have partnerships, obviously working regularly with Regional Sewer, the county engineer, Economic Development Group, the Emergency Management Agency, our school districts, and our fire department. Chris Dye and our staff has really worked hard this last year trying to build the communication here. We're able to, one of the things that the fire chiefs asked us for is maybe some signage to help identify areas where they're going to flushing. Obviously, it's important for all the fire departments to get their hands on those hydrants every year, open them, make sure they function, so they understand what kind of flow and everything they get out of there. And we appreciate that, but it's a service that needs to be done, and we appreciate the fire departments doing that. But it tends to drive a lot of customer complaints, and we saw about a 75% drop year on year in complaints this year by just better communication with residents. So maybe they experience some of the same challenges they've seen in the past with water quality, but they know exactly what it's attributable to, and has really cut down on those customer complaints. So we really appreciate that partnership. So thanks to the Genoa Fire Department and all the other ones that we work with. And the other partnerships we work with a lot of nonprofits, Delaware County Foundation, the Alpha Group, People in Need, and you see several other ones in there. We are helping the United Way and the Delaware Housing Alliance with their study that they're working on as well. And then we're just always looking to see if we can find ways to add value to our members. We're doing silver billing for door knock, and we're talking with others about maybe doing that just to avoid customers having to send 2 checks to pay 2 bills. I think that might simplify things for them a little bit. And to close, just looking for the shared vision, right? Public health and safety, obviously. We already talked about the relationship with the fire departments, affordable, quality services, and synergy wherever we can get it. So that's what I prepared for you. Paul, put me before those guys next time, all right?
All right.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
That wasn't entertaining, but that was entertaining.
Well, you got 2 years for the next one, so.
All right. Can I answer any questions?
I have a question. With the upgrades to the facility below Alum Creek Dam, what is the purpose of that? What are you doing there? What's your capacity there? What do you hope to get out of it after you make the improvements?
We currently are rated at 6.5 million gallons per day,
Okay.
and we have an allocation of 6 million gallons per day from the reservoir itself. So we're working with the Army Corps, trying to find out if there might be additional source water available from the reservoir, right? So the original hydraulic study that was done, the engineering that was done for that reservoir is about 50 years old now. So we have 50 more years of hydrologic cycle that we can evaluate and figure out if there's any more source available there. But get back on point. So that's so we're looking for more source.
Okay.
And then we've already constructed a pipeline. The pipeline is almost complete. In fact, it may be complete from our series of reservoirs on the Olentangy campus to the McNamara reservoirs, which are the ones that are located off of Old State. And that allows us to move water from the soda and from the Olentangy over there, and we could treat it at that plant. And the ultimate capacity of that plant is probably going to be 14 to 17 million gallons per day. Ultimately, we're going to have a couple cycles. That won't all be done in the first phase. We have a couple cycles of this. The first phase, I think we're looking to build a redundant clear well, which is where we store the finished water after it's ready, and maybe add a couple of treatment processes, and probably provide a little bit more high service pumping, so our peak day, we get a little more water out of it. But ultimately, we're looking to double or maybe even triple the size, the capacity of that plant. And that's to serve, right now, we have a challenge getting water further east into the county. So eastern Genoa, Columbus is bringing sewer up into Harlem. That project is, it's in design. If design may already be finished for it. So that's a challenge that we have. So we need to be able to move water further east. And obviously we've got some significant challenges with an interstate and with 2 significant reservoirs to be able to move that water over there. So that's what's on our mind with that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No.
You mentioned the Intel project, and it's been all over the news. They've talked about Columbus supplying the water. Will Delco at some point have any water, will we be supplying any water to that project? Or will it mostly be residential developments, the housing for the folks that are going to come to work there?
Those are great questions, and we're asking those questions right now of ourselves. We do not have, currently, we do not have enough source to provide the industrial use.
Sure.
So, you know, whether we're involved in developing that source for New Albany and Intel and folks in the future, that remains to be seen. We know Columbus has stepped in and they said, we're going to serve phase one, but we don't have enough, Columbus says we don't have enough source for the future phases because it's a significant water demand, way beyond what we heard. In fact, you know, when Columbus came and approached us, and we had no idea who the user was, and we said, no, we're not interested. We don't have those kind of resources. But so at some point, there's going to be some additional source water that's going to have to be developed. But our current, where we are right now, is we have about 20 years of growth available to us with sources that we either have already developed or that we control. So there's a couple more up-ground reservoirs that Columbus and Delco are partnering on that are in northwestern Delaware County that basically would flow down to the Saddle River. And then we have a well field that still can be developed up in Morrow County. It's associated with we have a plant up there all the way up in Knox County. It's almost to Fredericktown. It's way up there. Yeah. So we have those control already, but that's, we can't afford to give that up, or else, just like, you know, Columbus is concerned, that would eliminate our ability to continue to provide water for future demand in our entire system, which covers over 800 square miles. We're double the size of Columbus. If you include all the satellite communities, you add them all up. From a service area perspective, we're double the size. From a total population demand, we're about 1/8, right? So it's a much different system, much different challenges than an urban, big, you know, significant municipal system like Columbus has.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Len.
See you, Paul.
Next on my agenda is just an update to the board that at the April meeting, all the departments will be presenting a list of items that we would like the board to approve for the ARPA funding. So we have a workshop planned this month to talk about and try to not over budget ourselves, but to actually get some good planning for the next trustee meeting. So that's coming up. Next is the board met 2 times this past month to discuss board appointments. So I'm going to let the board now move ahead with that item.
Okay, thank you. Yes, since the February meeting, the board has met in executive session to select committee members for this year. So I will start this process, lengthy process. Yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
In light of Mr. Gephardt's accusations, I think it's important, if I could, because I did consult with Mr. Fowler, because I don't want to jeopardize the township in any way with even the preponderance of conflict of interest or ethical violations. It's not my objective here. I'd like to assure Carl I appreciate him being concerned about my political career, but my career as an engineer. I'm not a politician. My political career ends here. When I'm done with my term, I'm done. This is just a natural transition for me to try to help the township. So I have no political aspirations. I would ask if you could address again, if you're comfortable with coming up and addressing for the record. Is she with the county prosecutor? Melissa, I'm sorry.
Melissa Schipple.
I guess I would like to be on the record of the county prosecutor's position on this, the appearance of impropriety if I would happen to vote for a campaign contributor to a volunteer position on a
So I
committee.
think you've spoken to Mr. Fowler from my office.
Yes.
Whether or not you want to have that conversation now at the meeting is up to you. But as a prosecutor, you know, I hold myself to extremely high ethical standards. And if there's an appearance of impropriety, no. It's not worth it to me for anyone to ever question my moral or my integrity. But you've spoken to Mr. Fowler. he has all of the information because you talked to him. This was the first I had heard of it at the meeting, so I don't want to give you an opinion right now on the record without knowing all of the facts, because the only facts I heard were the ones that Carl said. But I can give you a general statement about how I view ethics and the appearance of impropriety. And when other individuals or clients come and tell me things, this is exactly what I say to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's helpful or not.
I spoke with Mr. Fowler as well, and he told me there is no conflict. There isn't. And I know your prosecutor's office, you give us the most conservative opinion. So, because I asked the same question to him after it was presented to us at the last meeting, and there is no conflict.
I trust Mark Fowler implicitly, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are we ready to proceed? I'll move to appoint Paul Hansen to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate member, term ending March 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Antonez?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. I'll move to appoint Mark Harmon to the Board of Zoning Appeals as a regular member, term ending March 31st, 2027. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Antonez?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we'll have the Zoning Commission. I move to appoint Kurt Sears to the Zoning Commission as an alternate member, term ending March 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Antonez?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. I'll move to appoint Jim Carter to the Zoning Commission as a regular member, fulfilling a vacant, unexpired term ending March 31st, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I cannot support the nomination of Jim Carter. Over the years, Mr. Carter has consistently shown that he has a single-minded mission related to zoning, and as such, I am concerned he will not be open-minded when approaching applications or working with other commission members. Additionally, Mr. Carter has repeatedly opposed and criticized developments north of Big Walnut Road, with the exception of one from which he will personally benefit significantly by the installation of a public road and a private gate to his property, and as such, I will be voting no on his application.
I would like to make a statement. There's no secret that Jim Carter and I co-chaired the referendum together. It's one of the reasons I decided to run for trustee. Jim Carter, I feel, has the wishes and the views of the majority of township residents that was proven in the victory of at the ballot in 2018. He also knows the zoning resolution, the comprehensive plan very well. He's very well spoken and educated in development in the township. In the recent newsletter, I wrote an article about density. The trustees have gotten numerous emails in the past few days about density. No one has said they want higher density. So I feel like him on the zoning commission, he represents the majority of the residents' wishes on the zoning commission. And like I said, it's not, I had got advice from the prosecutor's office, there's no ethics violation. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, I've known Jim Carter since I was on the zoning commission, and I don't know that I've met very many people in the township that is passionate about Genoa Township as he is. And it has nothing to do with himself. This is my personal opinion based on my relationship with Jim. I'm certain that he didn't donate $1,200 to my campaign to make $60 a meeting on the zoning commission. I think he's sincerely concerned and passionate about the township. For that reason, I'm voting yes.
Also, he has supported the zoning applications south of Big Walnut Road. He supported Grace's Place that had a density of 2.2, which was denied by the zoning, or the trustees. I believe that was in 2018, right after the referendum win. And in place of that is a suburban residential housing development going in, Grace's Place, that is lower density. So he supported that. He also was in favor of Vinmar Reserve, I think it was called, is called now. It was, when it was approved, it was Vinmar 456. He was in support of that. That is north of Big Walnut Road. Anybody else? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Next, I'll move to appoint Charles Moore to the Zoning Commission as a regular member, term ending March 31st, 2027. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. You're right, motion carries. Next, we'll work on Parks Advisory Committee. I'll move to appoint Stephanie West to the Parks Advisory Committee, fulfilling a vacancy created by appointing Jim Carter to the Zoning Commission, term ending March 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Anton?
Go ahead.
I believe that Mr. Carter will need to submit
Yeah.
a formal resignation.
Yes,
So someone will need to notify him.
yes. Roll call.
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. I'll move to appoint Molly McHale and Amy Barr to the Parks Advisory Committee, which respective term ends March 31st, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. Next, I'll move to change the term length for appointed Communication Advisory Committee members from 2 years to 3 years, effective April 1st, 2022, and furthermore to revise page 26 of the Genoa Township Handbook for Boards, Commissions, and Committees, currently dated February 24th, 2021, to reflect this change. For clarification, this motion shall not alter the already established term expiration dates of any currently appointed members of said committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I would suggest that maybe in addition to making those updates in the committee handbook, that a general review of it be done too. I think there may be a couple other items to pick up.
So that just a comment? You want to amend the motion?
That's more of a comment.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries. I'll move to appoint John Buckles and Carolyn Greshmer and Matthew Haynes to the Communication Advisory Committee, each respective term ending March 31st, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries. Next, Police Advisory Committee appointments. I'll move to appoint the following individuals to the Police Advisory Committee, each respective term ending March 31st, 2025. Tobias Gordon, Kevin Hankins, Donald Schwind, Dan Edwards, Philip Binkley, Chuck Carroll, and Kathy Nelson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Abstain?
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries. Last, Fire Committee appointments. I'll move to approve Mark Noble and Jared Christian to the Fire EMS Advisory Committee, each respectively fulfilling vacant unexpired terms ending March 31st, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. I'll move to appoint Tammy Schroff to the Fire EMS Advisory Committee, fulfilling a vacant unexpired term ending March 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Motion carries. And lastly, for committee appointments, I'll move to appoint the following individuals to the Fire EMS Advisory Committee, each respective term ending March 31st, 2025. George Schultz, Dwayne Nauer, Christopher Chesson, Mary Feskins, and Fred Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. All right.
Does that
Last?
conclude the appointments?
Yes.
Very good. Next up, I just want to mention to the board, I'm going to be introducing in April meeting, a resolution for the board to consider concerning a change in our policy manual. What it is involving is a reimbursement agreement with CDL classes. It's a new law that's recently come out where there's a change in the testing now, where if we have an applicant working, or if we have an employee working in our maintenance, parks, buildings, and grounds department, which are non-union, if they have no CDL and we want them to obtain the CDL, which is usually a requirement for the position, then we are going to have to send them the class. And the classes now are going to cost close to or exceeding $5,000. So the reimbursement agreement that I'm working on with our Labor Council will allow the township to have a requirement that the employee works for us for 36 months before he's relieved of the duty of any. If he decides to leave before 36 months, we're going to ask for a reimbursement of the tuition. So next month, I'll be bringing forward that resolution to you. I just wanted to give you a little heads up on that. I think it's only fair that we don't pay for someone's CDL class $5,000 and 2 months down the road, Delco water, somebody steals him. I think he's gone now. So
I might have missed it. Did you see how much it was for that?
$5,000. So in the past, we've been able to work with our applicants. We put them through our own training program to train on.
My only concern with that would be if someone did leave in 2 months. We don't owe them $5,000 in wages.
No. It'll be a reimbursement agreement set up with, as a commitment to pay back a loan to us. So it'll be a monetary commitment even after they leave us. If they haven't paid it back, they'll be on the hook to pay us. So it'll all be perfectly legal and vetted through our Labor Council. So.
Will it be prorated?
No.
Or- No, flat.
One last item, I just want to tell you, the board, that we've had some good news in the last week. The township was notified that we have been granted the OPWC project that we were requesting this year for Mount Royal Avenue. So the township, it's a $260,000 project. OPWC grant is going to be for over $192,000. Delaware County engineers are going to match it for close to $51,000. So the township residents will only have to pay $17,000 for their portion. So hats off to anyone who submitted. Bob, Jim Barna helped push this through. He has a lot of connections with the integrating committee at District 17. So that's good news for us. And Mount Royal, we're going to be adding in some flashing lights because there's a lot of students down through the area. So push button crossings and new ADA ramps where they're deficient. So that's some positive news for the township.
Very good. Thank you. All right, moving on. That wraps up your presentation, Paul. Okay, next on to police.
Good evening. I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Chibale to come up in a minute to continue the discussion on flock safety that he started last month. I do want to say that we do completely understand the privacy concerns that come with this, and they're legitimate concerns, and we are committed to make sure that this kind of data and this information is never misused, and it's only used for the appropriate investigation of criminal activity. I do want to point out that license plate readers are nothing new. We've used them for over 20 years. The only difference is, instead of being mounted on a cruiser, they're going to be mounted on a pole. It's the same technology. Only now, this is more sophisticated technology, more robust, and with a lot more safeguards to it than simple, the old license plate readers we've always used on the cruisers. So I really don't see it as anything new. We've never had any complaints in the use of our license plate readers. I think that the issues there, the benefits to investigating, preventing criminal activity outweigh those concerns, but we do understand those. So with that, I'll ask Deputy Chief Chibali to come up.
Good evening, trustees. I got lambasted last time for being up here for too long, so I'll try to keep it to a little less than 40 minutes, maybe, if that's okay. Maybe 10, 5.
Can we have the 3-minute rule? That's just for public comment.
So obviously, I'll reiterate what Chief said as far as privacy concerns, but I want to add something that I confirmed today with Mark Fowler in regards to public records requests. So the only real way that anyone would ever have a privacy issue would be from an outside public records request where someone would say, I want to see this person, how many times did they go through that camera system? In speaking with Mark, and from my knowledge of the law, because Flock Safety is the keeper of the records, although we own the data, for them to make a public records request of something that we hadn't looked at for a criminal nature, we would not be legally required to perform that request. So we cannot go into the Flock system and pull the information that someone from the public might want for some personal reason. We don't have to do that, we would not do that, and we will never do that. So as far as that goes on a privacy aspect, that's really the only way we would ever get a request to look at someone's personal information for any reason. We are not looking at any plates, as I talked about last month, for any other reason than a criminal issue. We require it. There's an audit trail. They are required to enter a case number, and those things through the audit trail will be checked from time to time to make sure none of that is occurring. So there really aren't any concerns that we're looking at everybody that drives into the township. We have no reason to do that. We're only looking for criminal activity, and we really believe that even 3 cameras will reduce that activity substantially. As someone spoke about earlier, OSU, Ohio State University, currently has 30 flock cameras in use. They are doubling that. They're ordering 30 more, so they're going to go up to 60 cameras. The FBI also has just joined Flock to add their hot list to Flock's list, and I spoke a little bit about the hot list, how that works. If someone comes in with an Amber Alert or missing person or something of that nature, it shoots a message to our cruisers, to our folks in the police cruisers, and they then know this car hit the camera at this location and are able to send units to respond for those types of alerts. But with that additional hot list from the FBI, they add activities such as terrorist activity warnings, or someone they're looking for to question about terrorist activities. Somebody they're looking to question, and also for investigations, but also for officer safety alerts on the federal level. So those are the things I just wanted to add, and after having a discussion with the chief, we decided to move forward with a request to approve the purchase of the 3 cameras this evening. One of the big reasons for that is not only do we have to set up installation with the company, I also have to get permitting from the county to get these cameras up. So we're talking some definite time frame to get that done. And our criminal activity certainly picks up quite a bit as it gets warmer. So moving forward, if you were to approve it this evening, we're probably still a couple of months out before we can even get these cameras in place. So we did not want to pause any longer on it. So in that regard, we would request approval for those 3 cameras from the board this evening. As far as cost goes, there is an implementation fee that goes with the first 3 cameras. That's $750. The cameras themselves are $2,500 on a yearly lease. So a total for year one for the 3 cameras is $8,250. The recurring total for those would be $7,500. And that would be at least for a 2-year contract, is the contract we'd be signing. After 2 years, we can certainly reevaluate and speak about what they've done for us and whether they're going to continue to be a good asset to us or even if we look at purchasing more. So, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Make the motion. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of flock safety cameras, 3 flock safety cameras for a cost of $8,200 for the first year and $7,500 for the second year. And it would be a 2-year contract. Have a
I second.
Okay, second, discussion? Go ahead. You have a question? I have a couple comments. Just ready to get out of here. So I saw the presentation at a business association meeting several months ago. I was super impressed with the flock cameras. I loved the idea. Then I started talking to residents about it and got some pushback. So after speaking with Deputy Chief Chabali, I reached out to my supporters. I have a plethora, I would say, of emails, several hundred emails of residents in the township. I just kind of wanted to get a feel because after seeing it, being impressed by the system and what it can do for the police department, I wondered how people felt in the township. So over the last month, I've gotten feedback from residents, and the majority of the people who responded are not in favor. So with that, and I've had discussions with Deputy Chief Chabali. It's a tough decision for me, but I feel like in this position, I represent the residents, so I need to vote that way. And I don't know if those residents just need more information, maybe community gatherings where you could educate the public. I know that there were several residents here who spoke in favor, but the feedback I got was majority not in support. Anyone else?
I just add, I sat through presentation with your long community police academy, whatever you, Sarah's organization, and I got a very thorough summary, probably a half hour longer, from the police department on this system they're proposing to use. And I think in light of the environment we're seeing with crime, that I'm comfortable with, trying 3 cameras for a couple years and we evaluate the effectiveness of it. And at that time, we decide whether we add more or we're removing it because it just isn't effective. So for that reason, I would be in support of it.
I'm also supportive of it. I mean, we've had folks tonight from various parts of our community. We've had residents, businesses. It's working in other areas at Ohio State. I still have friends down there, believe it or not, after 31 years. And they are saying that these things are helping to prevent crime down there. Granted, they are a very different population. But it was mentioned earlier about concerns for privacy, and Chief touched on that, as did DC Chabali. All of us are connected in so many ways that the privacy thing is, unless you're living in the middle of Montana, growing all of your own items, you haven't got a private moment in this world anymore. So I think for the good of the township, our residents, and hopefully preventing crime, not chasing it after it happens, we want to prevent it. I am absolutely in favor of getting 3 of them and hope that they prove themselves worthy, that we have this discussion in a year or 2, and they want more of them. So.
Okay, all right, roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Next item I have, kind of on a lighter note, we received a request from a movie company that's going to be doing a movie in the area, and they would like to use our jail cell in one of the scenes. It's a It's,
You looking for actors or?
I don't have all the details of what will transpire there, but it's called JC Films. The movie is Drop the Beat. It's a dance and music themed faith-based movie that will start production on March 24th and end on April 4th. I will not be in it. You do not want to hear me sing. However, Deputy Chief Chabali has a long history of musical theater, so you never know. Bohemian Rhapsody is his specialty, so if you ever want to see that. But seriously, they've asked for that, and maybe one of our officers, Lieutenant Lyon, just to appear in the background. One of the people starring in it is Dean Cain, who played Superman. So I don't see any problem with it. It seems like they don't really have a high budget. We're not asking for any compensation. They've just asked to use it, so
Lion's scale?
I don't think they can afford him.
Anything?
Pardon me?
I said you didn't get any credits at the end of the movie if they're not compensating you?
And show the sign that has trustees and fiscal officers.
No?
If they want Mr. Wise to be in the jail cell as an extra, we can work that out. I'd be happy to do that. I've done it before. So I don't
Very
need a
good.
resolution or anything, just want to make sure
Okay.
nobody's
Thank you.
opposed to it.
Sounds like a project.
The only other thing I want to give an update, we had a cruiser that was involved in an accident a couple of weeks ago. The cruiser was rear-ended while on a call. The officer was slightly injured, transferred to the hospital. He's okay, he's back to work. The cruiser's probably totaled because it's like an accordion effect on the frame with these cars now. So we're getting it evaluated with the insurance company to decide, but we may have to buy a replacement cruiser in the near future for that. So just to update you.
Thank you.
Will insurance cover any of that loss?
That's, we'll say, it's being evaluated by the insurance company
Oh,
now.
okay.
It's going to be towed.
Sorry, I missed that.
Towed away to do that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have maintenance, buildings and ground, parks and cemetery.
The first item is 2022 Park Fund Priority List, and Corey's gonna talk a little bit about it.
Good evening, Board. The Parks Advisory Committee would like to briefly discuss the Genoa Township Parks and Trails Master Plan. The goal is to determine the trustees' priorities for 2022. In the fall of 2020, after the passage of the first ever parks levy, the Genoa Township Parks Advisory Committee, followed by the Board of Trustees, determined a list of priorities from the goals and activities listed in the Parks and Trails Master Plan. Projects were planned in close alignment with those priorities. New priorities are established annually to guide the progress of the maintenance and enhancement to the parks priorities in Genoa Township. These are the top 5 priorities for the 2022 as recommended by the Parks Advisory Committee. Please review the goals and activities at the back of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, pages 44 through 48, and determine if you agree with this list or if modifications are needed. These are the top 5 Park Advisory Committee priorities for 2022. Number 1, establish and implement a playground replacement schedule. As age and wear dictate, replace most outdated playgrounds with new equipment and include shade structures. Goal number 2, increase trail connections from neighborhoods and parks to existing networks. Goal number 3, preserve and restore historic township buildings, McNamara Barn and the Old Township Hall. Priority number 4, coordinate access to Floor Woods and install hiking trail. Number 5, add heated remote locked restroom to Hillmar Park and Worthington Road. Once the board has agreed on their top 5, they will need to rank them, number 1 being the highest priority. Any discussion?
You lost me on, couldn't keep up with you. Did you go through
There
that?
should be a page that has the parks priority, how they ranked them, right here. It's the first page.
Oh,
Maybe it's the first page of that packet.
this is the packet that Paul sent out, so it's not the same as that. That's fine. I
It
can
should
get a copy of
be
it.
in your packet. It should be with the papers that were sitting on your table. Might be in the, yeah. Should be there. Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Mhm. So just so you, to explain how they got here, Molly had the Parks Committee put together their top 5, and then, everybody on the committee sent their top 5 to Molly. Molly ranked them, and this is overall the whole Parks Committee, how they ranked projects for this year. So the question is, does the board agree with this? Do we want to rearrange anything? Is there something on here that you would like to add that isn't on here? Would you like to take something off?
I think that they've done a lot of work on this, and it's a continuing project. There are a couple questions and comments that I have on it. I'm not necessarily going to change their ranking or anything. You know, they sat through all the discussion. I'm in favor of adding shade structures. I mean, those are some of the things that we've heard. We've put trees in so that there's some shade for people to sit in, but those poor little kids are baking in the sun. And so I think that those shade structures are important on playground equipment. The increasing the trail connections from neighborhoods and parks, that's a great idea, but we have to have easements for those, and those are sometimes hard to get. So I'm hopeful we can get them, but I don't want some people to think we're not doing our job because it's not happening. It's getting those easements that's the difficult part. The number 3 with the historic buildings, I know that we're working on costs for getting the Township Hall moved, and then we can start that renovation process. The McNamara barn, preserve and restore, I'm not sure that's going to happen with that barn. It may be building a similar structure to try to recreate it. So I'm concerned that the language will give false hope.
You make a good point, because we discussed this last night at the Parks Committee meeting, and I guess there was a little bit of confusion on the committee as to how the board felt about the barn. But I told them that, you know, we have a new trustee, but in the fall, the consensus of the board, we were leaning towards replacing the barn. So the committee didn't understand that until last night, and actually we had a very light crowd last night. It was about half, we barely met a quorum. So those are things that I think they are leaning towards replacing. We had a very lengthy conversation about that last night. But yes, you're right, the language needs to be revised.
The barn itself has just been let go for so long, and it's unfortunate, but, you know, it's a mess. The Floor Woods Trail, the trail won't be the issue, it's access. And we need to figure out how to get access from the garden before we can really tell people there's a trail. And the heated, remote, locked restrooms, I'd love to see more of them. I'd like to see one in every park. I also, the flip side of that is, I don't want to see them vandalized and destroyed. So I've got kind of a, I'd love to do it, but should we? So those are my thoughts.
Paul, do you have an update on access to Floor Park? Can you talk about the church meeting?
Real quick, Molly McHale popped in. I think she's on vacation, but
She's out on a work trip. I wouldn't
yes.
call it vacation.
I'm sorry. Molly, I apologize. I know you're working right now.
She's working.
But we had a discussion about, she asked that I get involved too, because I guess I'm the master of trail easements at the township, meeting with the Genoa Baptist congregation, getting together and having an informal discussion to see if any talks could be resumed to acquire an easement running along the back corner of their property. So I agreed. I said, just let me know who, when, where, and I'll be there for the board and the committee. So that's all I know at this time.
Very good. So we're trying, no promises.
Paul is the easement king of the
That's
township.
what I hear, so. So yes, that is fair point, and they are working on an easement. Bob, do you want to kind of talk about the restroom conversation we had last night? Or
Yes.
Corey, either one.
We did talk about, I've got quotes to bring the 4 other restrooms that are already in to have remote locks and heated and air conditioning in them. And the price I got is $27,000, which is a good price, I think. And that's something that as soon as maybe as early as next month, I'll bring that to the board and try to get approval.
That's
But
excellent news.
we are working on that.
Thank you.
Corey or Bob, do you want to comment on any of the other topics that Connie brought up? I don't know if we missed anything, just,
No, I think you're,
okay.
I'm okay.
Mark, do you have anything?
The restrooms, is that similar to one of the ones we just put in on Green?
Center Green?
Center Green.
Yes, it's,
Okay.
they're identical.
Yeah,
The one
solid.
at McNamara, one at Freeman, and one at Center Green.
Right, so nobody's going to push them over.
No, they're made out of
Or
concrete.
burn them? Let's hope not, you know.
Is there water and sewer available to both those?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Very good. So do we want to change any of the order? Are you okay with the order?
Well, I think Connie's got a valid point on that we have to get easements. I don't know, that could take, it could be months, if not years, to.
Yeah, I think that's it. If I were going to move anything, I'd drop number
to
2
5?
down, but.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
You know. I think the other thing is, these are the priorities, but we all tend to work on each of them consecutively.
Simultaneously, yeah.
Yeah, simultaneously, thank you.
Mhm.
And so prioritizing them, there's,
Yeah.
it's not the most important thing.
Mhm.
And then, has there been any evaluation on cost for these? We're not there yet. It
Some
sounds
of
like
it.
for the restroom.
The restrooms will cost roughly $200,000 per restroom. That counts all the utilities and all the prep work to sit the buildings on. So you're looking at $200,000 for Hillmar and $200,000 for
Worthington.
Worthington. And the trail at Fleur Road, we're always gonna do is make it a gravel trail, and you're talking probably no more than $20,000. Because there's some areas we'll have to build out of wood to get over because it's water all the time.
I don't mean to have you price them here, I'm just asking. the
No,
question.
we already had them priced.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, that,
And
they're,
we're paying $200,000 for a restroom?
correct.
What is the cost for the actual building?
The actual building is about 85,000.
The rest is plumbing.
Yeah.
The ones we put in before, they were 54. They did not have heat and didn't have remote locks. So that's the additional, plus everything's gone up since COVID.
Yeah, I know.
Can I mention
Yeah.
something else that's kind of pertinent? Just the Parks Levy does a wonderful job. It handles the costs of the employees, their benefits, the perks. And we basically have an additional, $300,000 in project money left out of that money?
Yeah, that's
So
cool,
we
yeah.
try to let that stretch as far as possible. But we have been working, Jim Barnett we worked on recently the capital bill. We submitted 3 park projects through the capital bill. Representative Carfagna, who was down to his second to last day in office, just said, I want your projects now, which was last week. And so we submitted 3 park projects on very similar things to what Bob's talking about, playground improvements, ADA, for some of the park upgrades. So hopefully Rick will get us some funding, committed before he left office. So I just want to let that know that it stretches our levy money big time.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? So before we move on, keep the order, except move increase the number 2, increase trail connections to number 5, and bump everything else up, correct? All right, so that's our decision. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up is a blanket purchase order for $125,000 for the prep work on Mount Royal. That's going to do 18 catch basins that are falling in, 22 wheelchair ramps, plus the flashing lights Paul talked about. That's everything but the resurfacing, our share of resurfacing. But that amount is not known because it hasn't got back from bid yet.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to approve the following: a blanket certificate in the amount of $125,000 for pre-work on Mount Royal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Corey. Next, fire.
Good evening, Board. See if I can be shorter than Russ tonight. Have just a couple items in front of you this evening. 3 of them are educational in nature for the employees. First, I would requestfully respect a resolution for the approval of a educational supplement for firefighter paramedic Brian Porter. Brian has completed his required coursework and obtained an associate's degree in paramedic science from Eastern Kentucky University. The current collective bargaining agreement between the Township and the International Association of Firefighters recognizes that upon completion, he is entitled to, and I did put it in my letter, 75 cents per hour increase in his base wage under the collective bargaining agreement. So I would ask for a resolution for Brian Porter.
Okay. I'll move to approve educational supplement for full-time firefighter paramedic Brian Porter per Article 15.8 of the Genoa Township Professional Firefighter Local 4307 Union Agreement in the amount of 75 cents an hour for an associate's degree, effective March 3rd, 2022. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. Next.
Thank you. Secondly, I would respectfully ask for a resolution for the approval of a tuition reimbursement program for Lieutenant Paramedic Allison Holsbury. Lieutenant Holsbury plans on continuing her education through Columbia Southern University to pursue her master's degree in emergency services management. She already has just recently obtained her bachelor's degree. Again, this is covered under the collective bargaining agreement under Article 16, tuition reimbursement between the Township and the Firefighters Local 4307. I would ask for that resolution on that matter.
Okay, I'll move to approve the tuition reimbursement for Lieutenant Paramedic Allison Holtzberry for a master's degree in emergency service management at Columbia Southern University per Article 16. Tuition reimbursement in the International Association of Firefighters Local Number 4307 Union Agreement. The reimbursement will be based upon final grades. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. And the last item dealing with education, I would respectfully request a resolution for the approval of tuition reimbursement for full-time firefighter paramedic Corey Deibert. Corey plans on pursuing his associate's degree through Columbus State Community College. Again, this is covered under the collective bargaining agreement under Article 16. And again, that is subject to reimbursement on his final grades, and I would ask for a resolution in that manner.
Move to approve the tuition reimbursement of firefighter paramedic Corey Deibert for an associate's degree in fire science at Columbus State Community College per Article 16, tuition reimbursement in the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 4307 Union Agreement. Reimbursement will be based upon final grades. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Okay, last item. You should have a packet of information in front of you. I'll try to boil it down to you, and if there's questions, we can discuss it. Basically, I'm going to ask for authorization from the board to work with the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office to file a complaint in Delaware County Municipal Court regarding a claim cost recovery for the cleanup of hazardous materials from an auto accident that occurred on Sunbury Road on October 19th, 2021. To give you a little background, this accident happened on said date. We were involved in the mitigation of the hazard, which was driveway sealant on the roadway and in a right-of-way area that we had to mitigate to make sure that it didn't get into public waterways, drainage, et cetera. In that mitigation process, we were on the scene for approximately 4 hours, and total costs incurred were $1,874.04. Typically, when we deal with an incident of this nature, this is covered under Ohio Revised Code. A lot of times we are dealing with commercial carriers or commercial businesses, i.e. semi-trucks, et cetera, a lot of times out on the freeways, Route 3 occasionally. Usually, we will file the necessary paperwork through the Delaware County EMA office, who then has it checked by the prosecutor's office, it's then sent to the insurance company of the trucking company. We've never, to the best of my recollection, not received a check for those requests for reimbursement, because the insurance company, it's usually a pretty small bill in the grand scheme of the rest of the accident that may have happened. In this case, this was a gentleman that was running what would appear to be a driveway sealing business using his personal vehicle with one of those plastic type totes in the back of his vehicle. Lost control of his vehicle, caused the tote to come out, spilled the driveway sealant, like I said, on the roadway onto another vehicle, and then into the right-of-way off of the west side of Sunbury Road. He did not have any sort of commercial insurance. We worked with the county EMA office and the prosecutor's office back in, I want to say it was December. He was sent a registered letter from the prosecutor's office telling him that he must make restitution to the township for the dollar amount that I provided to you earlier. Neither us nor the prosecutor's office nor anyone has heard from said gentleman. So Administrator Wise and I reached out to Mr. Fowler from the prosecutor's office and asked, what's our next course of action? He says, well, we can take him to court, try to get a judgment against him, and hopefully try to recoup some money. Administrator Wise and I talked about it, and we thought it was the best course of action, being that we expended residents levied fees to mitigate this incident for a gentleman that didn't have commercial insurance, which if he had, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you this evening. So I would just ask if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you. If not, the resolution to allow us to proceed with our interaction with Mr. Fowler through the prosecutor's office.
Okay. Move to authorize the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office to file a complaint with the Delaware County Municipal Court regarding the claim cost recovery for cleanup of hazardous materials. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Was he cited?
I believe he was cited.
That's all.
And in the complaint, it would be for us to recoup any of the expenses we incurred, plus court costs he'd have to pay. We shouldn't have to pay those.
We will have to pay the initial filing fee
Right.
to to bring that forth. We didn't ask Mr. Fowler that. I'm not sure that Mr. Fowler is overly hopeful that we'll get money from this gentleman, but as Paul and I discussed, we think it's prudent. We've always done this in the past whenever we've been in this type of incident. This is just unique that he didn't have commercial insurance, but to continue our track record and to also have that track record going forward, that we always try to recoup levied funds when we have to mitigate a hazard. So, I'm sorry, I can't answer your question specifically, but I will ask Mark that, and if he can provide that answer, I'll get it to you
And
all.
I think you're probably right. We're probably not going to get anything, but if we can get anything, we ought to have a zero cost except for the filing fee, in my mind.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, zoning.
Good evening, trustees. First couple items on your agenda under my section relate to the same item, which is the zoning resolution text and map amendment, ZC case number 2021-04, also commonly known as the Hoover Watershed Overlay District. So just going to read through the memo here real quick. On Monday, February 14th, 2022, the Genoa Township Zoning Commission heard testimony on the subject zoning resolution text and map amendment, commonly known as Hoover Overlay Watershed District. The amendment would create said zoning district and make a few other technical revisions to the zoning resolution. The February 14th meeting was a continuation of a hearing previously held on October 12th, 2021 and December 13th, 2021. Following the close of testimony, the Zoning Commission deliberated and passed the following. A motion to recommend approval of the subject amendment incorporating revisions recommended by the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office by a 4-0 vote. As such, the Development and Zoning Department requests two items this evening. The first being that the trustees consider passing a motion that formally acknowledges receipt of the Zoning Commission's recommendation of approval for said amendment. Staff recommends this be done this evening.
Want to go ahead and read the motion?
Yeah, probably
Okay.
easier.
I'll move that the board acknowledge the recommendation of the Zoning Commission's recommendations for approval of applications for ZC 2021-04 Hoover Watershed Overlay District. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. And related to that item,
Before you.
Yes.
There was a, I don't see it on our agenda, but on the agenda, there was hiring legal counsel. Where should that discussion take place in your agenda?
I figured that we need to schedule the hearing just to make sure we get something on the calendar. I figured
That's what I
that would
didn't know.
segue into that
Got it.
conversation.
Okay, then go ahead.
Unless you want to discuss it now, but that was.
No, I didn't know if this was going to affect, that was going to affect when we have this.
Oh, I suppose it could. I mean, you could.
Yeah.
As you're discussing dates, you probably could talk about really both.
Okay.
So number two, I'm requesting the trustees set a public hearing date, including time and place for said amendment, as well as a date when the board wants the ZC recommended version of the amendment made available for public review. Staff also recommends this be done this evening. A couple notes here. Typically, staff recommends the public hearing be scheduled within 30 days of this meeting, which would be approximately April 2nd, to not run afoul of due process rights of an applicant. However, since this document was initiated by the township, there is no applicant. So I did try to reach out to the prosecutor's office to get 100% go ahead that if we don't want to go beyond that 30 days that we're okay. Unfortunately, I couldn't get in touch with him prior to the meeting. I think we have done that in the past, though. I think as long as we're being reasonable, it's understandable. I mean, the public is going to expect that we are doing something with it and want to see that it's continuing on through the process. So we want to make sure it doesn't linger out there too long. But like I said, so we don't have an applicant. It's not like you're going to have to worry about someone coming back at you and filing some sort of complaint that you're not following the revised code and honoring their rights. So second note is, it is advised that the amendment, including the map, be made available at least 10 days prior to the scheduled hearing date to allow sufficient time for public notification, advertisement, and review. The earliest date staff feels confident an ad could be run in the Delaware Gazette is Tuesday, March 8th. This means the public hearing should be scheduled no earlier than March 19th. Also, please be advised that there are numerous dates in March, April, and May, because I wasn't sure how far out we were going to look, that do not work for the zoning staff needed to conduct a hearing due to scheduled vacations, various zoning and planning meetings with regional planning, holidays, and/or pre-existing personal matters. It's quite a lengthy list. Candidly, if you want to go month by month, it'd probably be easier. And then I went through today and looked at the nights the hall was reserved. So it might be easier for me to go month by month and tell you the dates that I believe are available. And I'm even going to still check the calendar, the facilities rental calendar, just to make sure nothing happened this afternoon after I looked at all of these. So do you want me to start with March 1st or March dates?
I think before we talk about schedule, I'm curious to know what the legal counsel's impact is on this.
All right. Yeah, I brought this issue up to Paul and Joe. I have been talking to some other trustees in other townships, and both of them have hired Chris Reinhardt to just be a consultant for zoning matters. And Concord Township is using him to help them revise their zoning resolution and comprehensive plan. And since that's kind of what the overlay is supposed to do, I would like to look into that option before we just say yay or nay on the overlay, because the overlay may be the answer, but it may not be. So from what I've been told, you can speak with Chris, tell him your overall goal, and he'll tell you how to get there. He'll help you write your plans. And I just feel like the township has been working on this since probably for 10 years, try to work with the residents to try to get our zoning resolution and comprehensive plan to reflect the wishes of the residents, and we haven't been successful so far. There's constantly tweaks, so I feel like it would be, now is a good time to at least explore that option before we say yay or nay on the overlay. That's what that is about. Now, I've been told that I could have gone and spoke with him by myself. We could have had him here, but then that would be open to any and all to hear. So we're kind of in a predicament here. So I would like to meet with him and Joe and just see. And then whatever we come up with, we can share with you at a later date.
I did think of another way around that.
Yes,
If
go
you
ahead.
did get him scheduled at the township building here
Yes.
at a time,
Mhm.
you talk to him for a period of time, step out and leave
Yes,
time for
I
the
like
other
that.
trustees individually to speak with them.
I like it.
That way you're not violating any sunshine laws.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it-
I've been dealing with zoning code commissions literally all over the country. I would appreciate some time with him.
Okay, good. Because I was asking them, how do I do it? I don't know. So that's what they had discussed, so I like that you came up with that other option, I think. And yes, it'll cost us a consultation fee, but I think it is money well spent for us to figure this out once and for all. We've
What is
been,
that initial consultation fee?
I don't know. That's why I wanted to bring it to you first to see.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
We have an attorney that works with us on zoning matters. We have Pete Griggs.
Yes.
Why would we go to someone else when we already have a relationship with someone who knows our township and the concerns we have and that our residents have expressed?
Good question. You've been using him, nothing against the Griggs. I know this is on public record. So we've been using him for years and we haven't come up with a solution. That is why I'm looking elsewhere. I haven't worked with him, but again, the township's been spinning their wheels for years. I'm not opposed to it, but I'd like to, I'm getting good feedback from Chris Reinhardt, that's why.
I guess the other question I have, well, I've got a couple more. Pete Griggs has done what we've asked him as far as looking at our zoning code and helping us to keep it within the law. So he's been doing some updates and changes, et cetera. I don't know that we've ever asked him to weigh in on our zoning resolution and our comprehensive plan as a package and to update those. My bigger concern is that we have an opportunity right now with the Hoover overlay to reduce the density, which is what residents tell us they want, in specific areas. We have the opportunity to get this discussed amongst us, perhaps passed if that's the will of the board, and within 30 days, if there's no referendum, it can be put into play. If we look at revising the comprehensive plan and the zoning resolution, it's going to take far longer than 30 days. And we leave ourselves open for developers to look at what we're doing and say, let's get in there fast before they do anything else. Let's get in with the current zoning before they change it again.
I've been told by Chris this could be finished by the end of 2022. So I think it's, again, I feel like it's worth exploring. I don't want a quick fix, I want the right fix.
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that we're utilizing the resources that we already have at our disposal. We're looking at the overlay legitimately because our zoning commission has put a great deal of work into that. And that we also consider using our attorney that we have on staff. We've got the prosecutor's office and we've got Pete Griggs, as opposed to going to the outside. The other part of this is we're now in March. If we schedule a meeting end of March, beginning of April, we could have this overlay in place by June. That gives us 6 months where developers can't swoop in and ask for higher density.
Again, I'm not looking for a quick fix, I want the right fix. I don't want to get into a lot of discussion on this tonight. I think the meeting is the right time to do that. Either way, we're going to pay a legal counsel, whether it's Pete Griggs or someone else. So I don't know that it matters. I've been told that Chris Reinhardt is really good at keeping townships out of lawsuits, which we've had a couple in the last several years. So that's another reason I'm looking elsewhere.
If I
Yeah,
may.
go ahead, go ahead.
There's nothing precluding the board from meeting with both, if you were so willing to spend
Yeah.
that time in those funds.
Yeah.
Because if you're just
I think
consulting.
I would agree with at least talking to Mr. Reinhardt. I mean, we're not recommending you enter into a contract or an
No.
agreement, but we ought to at least talk to him.
I would ask him if he's willing to give us a free consult.
I'll ask.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to charge us, then that's different, you know.
I'll ask. Okay.
Okay, so do I need to, it sounds like trustee Vaughn, you plan on making contact with
Yeah,
Mr.
I'll
Reinhardt?
talk to him, see what he can offer us.
Okay. So with that, I still think we need to at least set a date. Now, just of course, just because you're setting a public hearing date doesn't mean you're setting the date you're going to make a decision.
Yep.
It may not even be a date, honestly, that you accept public comment. We could open the hearing, I could give a presentation, and if then the board can decide, you know, if you're not ready to hear public comment because you want to possibly look at this alternative path, or, you know, you can go whatever path you want at that point, but we at least need to open it and at least get that step done. And then the hearings can take as long as the hearings need to take.
So do you want to give us dates in March? Since
Yeah,
limited?
that's pretty easy. So there's
Okay.
really only 2 dates in March, between the window we have to advertise and get public notice out and stuff, and all the conflicts and whatnot. There's really only 2 dates in March. They would be Monday, the 21st, or Tuesday, the 22nd is actually now available because the BZA did not receive any applications, so their meeting got canceled. So the hall is now open on the 22nd.
I'm available on the 21st.
I cannot do the 21st, I could do the 22nd. I already have 2 conflicts on the 21st.
I technically have the police citizens advisory. So-
You what?
Yeah, we're both doing the Citizens Advisory Academy for Police, and that's on Tuesdays.
On
so-
Tuesdays, okay.
Yeah, can we look at April then, I guess, Joe?
Yeah, there's 4 dates in April. One of them would require bumping the Parks Advisory Committee to the other room. That would be April 6th. That's a Wednesday. And then there's Thursday, the 12th. Wednesday, the 20th, and then Thursday, the 21st, and that's a Thursday, and that's your third Thursday of the month, reserve night for meetings anyway.
You said the 6th, the 12th,
6, 12, 20, or 21?
20. Yeah, I'm available the 6th, the 20th, or the 21st.
Yeah, I can do any of them.
You just want to do the 6th, so we can,
As long as the
Sooner.
PAC is comfortable being bumped over to the
you all right with that?
other
Gonna make
conference
that
room.
executive decision? Tell them Corey did it.
Someone may have to chauffeur them back, since it's a bit of a
Yeah.
walk around now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. 6:30?
Works for me. And then, with that motion, again, I'll want to know, just, I guess you don't necessarily have to put it as part of the motion since we don't have an applicant, but I would just need some understanding when you want the updated copy, the ZC recommended version of the amendment online. I can probably have it ready by early to mid next week.
You want to tell me a date? Because it doesn't really matter.
Let's see.
Whatever's good for you.
The revisions were relatively minimal. About no later than Wednesday. Is that
Sure,
work?
Wednesday is the
I
9th.
may even be able to get up before then, but I like setting deadlines, so I have something to keep me honest.
Okay. And it's at 4 PM? Do you want them,
Yeah, how about 4:30? That's the close of the
4:30?
day, so
Yep.
for us, so.
4:30? Okay, I'll move to schedule a public hearing for ZC 2021-04 Hoover Watershed Overlay District on April 6, 2022 at 6:30 PM at the Genoa Township Hall. The deadline for all materials to the trustees is March 9th, 2022 at 4:30 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. I do have one other item for you this evening. During your meeting last week, we had scheduled a zoning hearing for J.C. Manny on Wednesday, the 16th. Unfortunately, it had slipped my mind that we were renting the hall out again because we hadn't done it for a couple of years. And I didn't realize there was actually already someone scheduled in here, one of the HOAs. So I've talked to each of the board members who I know are going to be able to attend. And then I did talk to the applicant, and it seems like everyone was available for the following evening, which is Thursday, March 17th. Unfortunately, that's St. Patrick's Day, we can all wear green and, maybe sing Danny Boy or something. But with that, I would like just a formal motion, if the board is agreeable to that, just to reschedule that hearing to the 17th. We've already got the ad queued up and ready to run in the paper, and we'll meet our advertising deadlines, but I still wanted to get it on the formal record.
And do you want materials to?
We actually got those already. You established that deadline, and we have those. They should be in your mailbox. The
yeah,
digital
I do
copy
have
should be posted tomorrow, so we don't need that part of the
Okay.
motion. Just
So
motion to
don't,
reschedule the hearing.
okay, got it. All right, so I'll move to reschedule the public hearing for ZC 2022-02 J.C. Manny to March 17th, 2022 at 6:30 PM at the Township Hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Let's discuss it for just maybe 20 seconds.
What?
Let's discuss it for like 10 more seconds.
Oh, he's not voting on this.
Oh, okay.
He needs to
All right.
abstain.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
That's all I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next, we have communications.
Board, I have Leslie Strader on phone.
Very good.
Leslie, can you hear us?
Yes, very good. Your mic isn't on, Paul.
Great. Should I get started?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, believe it or not, our website is now nearing 5 years old. So at the time that I had just started working for Genoa Township, the website was still in SharePoint, and we were hosting it ourselves. So it was really my first task when I got the job here, to find a contractor and begin a redesign process. We did that and wound up with the company Revise. They're located out of Michigan. So they did the graphic design for the website, and then I built out the pages and organized it in the way that I thought would be most user-friendly. I feel like it has aged pretty well. We have received communications from other townships kind of asking, who do you use? How did you accomplish this? And that's always a nice pat on the back when people want to try to repeat some of the work we've done. So now, saying all that, it's been 5 years and technology changes quickly. So just a few of the things that have happened for us in that 5 years is we went from having in-house IT to going to a private consultant to now working with Delaware County for those needs. We began collecting Google Analytics on our website. Last year, we began using online reservation system and credit card processing on the website, which the original contract did not have, so that was an add-on. Regulations governing websites for accommodations for people with vision and hearing impairments have been strengthened. We began phasing out our old logo in exchange for the script word mark that's on the wall behind you. And then the Communications Advisory Committee was established. So a lot has changed in that 5 years. Our original contract with with Revise is ending. And Trustee Vaughn advised that as a best practice, we should really rebid the website and just make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and remaining competitive. So we did that. We issued the bid documents on January 6th with a due date of February 9th. We didn't get a huge response from companies this time around. Just 2 bids. We had one from a company, Infogeny, for $52,000 for the design, plus annual costs of $1,200 for hosting and $7,200 for maintenance and support. That was pretty on par with the costs we were seeing from most of the companies the original, the first time we went out to bid for the website. In contrast, the company that we're already with, Revise, if we continue on with them, we would just continue our normal payments, which is $2,075 for software subscription support, storage, security, and then $1,500 for our reservation system annually. As part of that contract, there is a redesign, so kind of like a graphic overhaul included in that every 5 years. So we didn't have a lot to choose from, but it was pretty clear to Paul and I as we discussed this that we would hope to continue on with Revise. That would also help limit the costs associated with my time to learn and operate new software, rebuild a website, training staff, those types of things. So if the board is comfortable with that plan, moving forward with this project, what would be very helpful to me would be if each of you are able to submit to me some websites that you guys really like of other communities, either graphic appeal, organization. I will supply these then to Revise, and they use them kind of as inspiration, as a jumping off point for their design. The contract does not allow a lot of back and forth, like, oh, change this color and change this design element. So we really want them to hit it out of the park on the first try and give them as much information as we can to have them be successful in that design process for us. Second, if there's anything on our website right now that bothers you, this will be a great time for me to fix those nuisances and make it just function overall better. So one of the things I would like to do to improve the functionality of the website is an add-on fee with Revise for $975 is a curated search feature. So how this would work, we don't have a lot of people who use the search feature on our website, most people do navigate directly to the page that they want using the tabs at the top. But enough people do use their search bar and have expressed that it returns a lot of documents, a lot of pages, and it can be confusing which one is actually the page they're searching for. So the curated search feature would work where I could actually kind of interpret what their search words are intending to get to. A good example of this is trash. Some people call it trash, some people call it garbage, waste, refuse, recycling, rumpke, disposal. These are all words that someone might type into a search bar, and they all just want to get to our webpage that explains what our process is for curbside collection. So I would be able to, on the back end of the system, make sure that they wind up at the place that they're trying to get to. Other things that will happen as part of an overhaul would be Revise will update their handicapped accessibility features to meet current government standards. I'll be looking for broken links. I'll be combining or deleting pages that have just a little bit of content or has become outdated or unnecessary. I'll reorganize any pages that take too many clicks to get to from our main page. I will go through the site on a cell phone to make sure that it's scaling down well. 50% of our users right now use our website on a desktop computer. 45% of them are on a phone. That's a big chunk. The remainder of the folks are on a tablet. I'll be looking at our Google Analytics. I kind of always do, but this will be a good chance to take a deeper dive. For example, there might be something that needs to be elevated in the website hierarchy. People are searching for top searches, zoning map, trash and recycling, jobs and employment, noise ordinance, and the newsletter when they're using that search bar. When they're just directly navigating to pages, their top pages are police, recycling, zoning, trustee documents, fire, trick or treat information, facility rentals. So I'll be able to, now that we have this data that we didn't have the first time I developed the website, we'll be able to make sure that those things that we know people are looking for are front and center. Let's see. So finally, I'll be working with the departments that haven't already begun using the online forms and payments to help them get comfortable with using that new technology. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Chrissy Preston in the maintenance department, because she has really led the way for adopting, being the first adopter of that technology when nobody had experience using it yet. And she was just willing to fearlessly jump in and learn as she goes. And it helped educate me on the software, and it'll make me better at helping the other departments get through that. So kudos to her. So that's really my plan moving forward if the board is comfortable with it. And I am here taking notes if you have any feedback or questions or concerns.
Thank you, Leslie. I personally like the fact that I am in favor of adding the search feature because that is something that I've struggled with. And I believe that more people would use it if it worked the way a lot of search buttons work on other websites. Anyone else?
I would agree with the curated search feature. Anytime you can put in your own meta tags and you can determine what people are asking versus where you want to get them to, that's going to be of great help. Leslie, I have a couple questions about working with Revise over the past 5 years. So in your mind, have they been responsive, and are they somewhat easy to work with? Because that's a huge part of this.
That's a great point, Connie. So I'm not going to say that they are 100% easy to work with every time I have an issue arise. But I'd say they're up in that A range. I'm happy with them. I have an easy and comfortable relationship working with them. They have a portal that I can make contact with a programmer 24/7 if I have an emergency. We've had very few outages on their hosting. So I'd say overall, I'm happy. I'd like to continue the relationship, obviously, for making this recommendation. But you make a great point. The working relationship has some value there.
The other question is, are we signing another contract or just extending year to year?
We do have a renewal contract that states that added curated search feature, and it also, since we added on our forms and our online reservation system, kind of outside of our normal contract period, we were paying 2 bills on different schedules. So when we sign this new contract, it's going to bring them both onto the same payment schedule to make life a little bit easier for the fiscal team.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything, Mark?
So the board's okay with me moving ahead and signing this contract to move ahead then? But you will be getting, Leslie, some of your comments and changes that you wish, so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Good evening. Is that all we wanted Leslie for?
Yeah, I think so.
Bye, Leslie.
Yeah. All right, that's it, right? Announcements? We can move on?
Did we mark the BZA off of the? Yes, that they're off.
Oh,
They're not.
The
so there's
announcements.
no
Oh, they're still on
BZA.
there?
Okay.
No BZA meeting on the
Okay.
22nd.
All right, so announcements. March 14th, there's a zoning commission meeting. April 2nd through the 8th.
No, April
No.
2nd, 8 to noon.
Thank you. April 2nd, 8 to noon, the latex paint collection will be held at McNamara Park. April 6th, there's a Parks Advisory Committee meeting, and the next regular trustee meeting is April 7th. So at this time, I'll move to adjourn to executive session at 9:16 p.m. to consider the dismissal, discipline, and compensation of a public employee. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Roll
Mr.
call.
Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries. This time, we're adjourned to executive session. Good, okay. I'll move to return from executive session to the regular trustee meeting at 9:44 PM. Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. There's no more business before the board, so I'll move to adjourn this meeting at 9:44 PM. Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette? Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
We're adjourned at 9:44.